All right. Good morning, everyone. Just waiting to go live on Instagram here. Hold on. Well, let's see. Shoot, never mind. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. We got Brandon from Build to Rent, Texas, and Lauren Elaine here. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Yeah. Brandon, this is it's been a while since I had you on. But you did come out with a cool video recently on your YouTube channel. So I posted that in the chat. So everyone go check out the video. But we are going to kind of talk about and maybe dig into that video a little bit,
Morning.
talking about all cash or leverage. Hmm.
And actually, right behind me is the whiteboard. I still have it on the whiteboard. The final part of the video of where I analyzed the returns versus the cash flow.
Okay. Let's see. Are you freezing up? I know Lauren seems to be freezing up.
No, I'm
Okay.
not.
Okay. Cool. It must be okay. All right. Yeah. So you want to maybe discuss where this thought came from, or as far as is that something that a lot of people talk to you about, as far as buying all cash or financing, or what's your thoughts on that?
Where it prompted actually, well, it's over a multiple conversations. So I was watching a video with Dion. I would say week and a half ago, he published one on all cash versus financing or leverage. And I've had these discussions with different investors. As you know, I've shared with you, I've been in property management and we've had these issues, questions asked. Even had one of my friends that's coming to the ORAD event. They were going to pay all cash. She hated debt. And I talked her out of it and said that's not the right approach. So that's where it started. I can't hear you. No sound. Lost sound. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Okay. I think the mic might have cut out on the other one. I changed it. All
Okay.
right. Okay. We are back. All right. Sorry, everyone.
Sorry.
Technical difficulties. Lauren is frozen. She keeps trying to come back in. But yeah. Sorry. I was gonna just say
So,
that it seemed like a bold statement to say one is the wrong way or the other. Would you
and,
kind of agree with that?
and I agree. I made sure I did not say it's wrong. I'm saying using some form of leverage is optimal. So you have two different principles at it. And I think there's risks on both sides. If you pay all cash, I thought of a risk that you have. Now, how high that risk is I don't know, but you have more increased chance of losing the property through fraud or a lawsuit. You increase that odds because somebody could either transfer the title on you, but also if somebody were to sue, they're more likely to sue if there's not liens against it. And I'm not saying that's high probability. I'm not saying that's high. I'm just saying that's one risk you add. You do increase your cash flow, of course, but as I was going through the numbers, it's not as much as you think because you still have expenses, but you then begin to pay income tax because you have so much cash flow with not enough expenses. You begin to pay income tax on that cash flow, which reduces the cash flow.
Never looked at it that way. Lauren, can you say something? You're back. You don't look frozen anymore. Mm,
I don't. You guys are kind of freezing up.
yeah, I think.
It's this, for some reason, it's this restream, I think.
All right, Brandon, you back?
Okay.
I
So
think it.
that's what I went through in the numbers. And it's, right behind me here is where it's at. And I make assumptions, and these are assumptions of a portion. So I really dial into this. I say, okay, here's the cash flow because I had it all in my in a work spreadsheet. If it has this much cash flow, yes, you have depreciation, but it didn't overcome the amount of cash flow. And assuming I made an assumption of being in the 25% tax bracket, it equaled to about 2,900 you would pay an income tax on that property. It's a very basic calculation, but making some assumptions that okay, you have the depreciation on the structure, and then you're reducing that off the cash flow, but it wasn't enough to reduce the rest of the excess cash flow because that would be profit that you'd have to put on your tax return.
A lot of good points there. I think for me, I guess the easiest way I like to kind of look at it a lot of times is, a lot of times, unfortunately, there's a lot of these natural disasters, going on right now, and there's a lot of people that had paid off homes or whatnot, and so they're now kind of dealing with the struggles of, in a sense, having to deal with insurance companies all by themselves, or even a lot of times, right, you have a paid off home. Sometimes maybe you're not paying as much attention with your insurance policy and things like that. So, like you're saying, from a very liability or risk standpoint, I think having maybe some debt on a property because you have that bank, in a sense, in your corner for the most part.
They're
Uh,
fighting on a situation like that. They're fighting with you in that complete catastrophic fire. And and I agree. What I see a lot of people do is if they're paying all cash, they're trying to maximize cash flow. And sometimes they make choices differently with insurance because they're wanting to maximize going from replacement cost to actual cash value. Then the insurance companies do a depreciation schedule, and so you're going to be getting less. I believe that's the difference, and don't quote me on this, I'm not an insurance expert, but actual cash value, you receive less than replacement cost, and you want to look at those differences in the insurance. So yes, when you're all cash, there are some differences, and then the bank sometimes can be an advocate, even in a suit. They're going to be an advocate fighting, and there's less likely if they see a lien against it, they're going to be less likely to sue a little bit. People can sue for anything, you know, but I'm just saying it has an advantage, but it also maximizes your return on capital, having some percentage of other people's money financing the real estate.
Absolutely. Lauren, are you here?
Yes, I am. But I think my thing is still glitching.
Okay. Well, I know a lot of people are going to tune out if we bump you out of this, but I think we're going to have to try and get you on maybe at another time. Thanks, Lauren. We'll try and schedule something again. Okay, so sorry everyone that may have tuned in to chat with Lauren or see what she's up to, but it seems like she's having internet or Wi-Fi issues right now. But
Disappointing.
disappointing. I'm sure she had a lot of great information to give us. But yeah, I think going back to the thoughts of all cash or leverage, I think a lot of it really depends. Maybe for me, I look at it where you're at in your journey. I think that would be the easiest way to kind of simplify what's the best strategy to use. Because to build up that capital to buy all cash, I think is the biggest struggle for a lot of people. And if you do buy all cash, initially, a lot of times you don't have the maybe, I don't want to say everyone, but maybe not have the knowledge to how to use all that equity in a sense. So I think sometimes buying leverage is probably the easiest and most simplest way to go.
I would agree. I mean, I've got some of my clients that pay all cash for their property. Um, Not a wrong scenario. I just say I want to maximize or find a golden median of maximizing my return on capital, and but doing it in a safe way. So I fit kind of in the middle there of not all cash, but not all leverage, in being leveraged to the razor's edge. I don't think it has its own risks too, because if it goes sideways, or you have something that all of a sudden doesn't cash flow and you don't have enough reserves, you're ending up having to either lose the property or sell it at a loss. That's something that's a bad situation too. And I've seen that in my banking career over the last 20 years. I've watched people get stuck. And even just recently, we've got a few clients that it's not cash flowing very well, and they would prefer to sell it, but because they're in such a negative equity position, I'd call it being caught between a rock and a hard place, and they're struggling with it, and they're taking the lesser of evils and saying, maybe, okay, it's negative cash flow, a couple of hundred, because I can't sell it, and if I sell it, I'm going to now have to come to the table with 20, 30, $40,000. I've seen that scenario, and that's not an ideal scenario.
Absolutely. I think that's the one thing, right? Some people think buying all cash is very safe, but a lot of times you're handcuffing yourself with, either using all your reserves in a sense, or you're putting down this huge amount of money, and now you don't have these necessary funds possibly to make corrections or weather some tough times. But we got Joe stopping by. We got Hugo. What's up, man? I think you're going to be in Vegas, you said. And yes, I think the big question is Lauren going to be in Vegas? I'll maybe let her answer that in the chat, but people are wondering if she bought her ticket yet. And I just want to remind everyone there is a video on Brandon's channel about this very topic. He came out with a video recently. That's why I kind of want to discuss it with him. But also, if you go tune into that video, he does have a question in there about his Aloha shirts that he always wears. And people, I'm not sure if people did see that video yet, but if you want to comment where that Aloha, or what movie, right, that Aloha
What
shirt was
movie
from.
that shirt is from?
Yeah, so if you did see that video, you can also comment here, maybe where you think that shirt has appeared in a movie. And I also want to talking about apparel or clothing, and I want to remind everyone that Frank Old Guy REI is selling the one rental at a time T-shirt for the ORAT event to raise money for the blind center. So that is the front of the shirt, and this is the back of the shirt. So I found my tribe. So reach out to Frank at Old Guy REI if you want to pick up your shirt for the ORAT event. But yeah, so Brandon, I know you're doing a lot of build to rent type of things. So right now with the market, the interest rates where they're at, do you see a lot of people putting down big down payments or buying all cash, would you say?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm seeing that, but I'm not in that market where I'm seeing a lot of other people's transactions. We have one of our owners just last week closed on a single family house, and she was paying all cash. They have a good other business, and her husband does very well as a doctor, and they have a good big business. And so they've been able to build up a lot of cash. It's not wrong. I mean, it's very safe in a lot of ways and builds a lot of cash. Um, I just think there is a golden median in there where you could even have in my video, it talks about, I think an optimal starting point is at 70%, being, I want off options. I want if things go sideways. And so I do think a lot of worst case scenario that, okay, I bought it. I've got 30% equity in it. For some reason, I've messed up on my numbers or something goes sideways where even I just, hey, I need to access some capital and access that capital in that property that I can sell it with typical transaction costs. I took the assumption of about 9%. It could be a little bit less than that on transaction costs. I don't know every state. I'm saying here in the state of Texas, as an average, it's about 9% that factors in all the expenses to it. And then if you happen to be selling as a distressed seller, typically you're having to get to that money faster. So you're going to have to put a price that causes it to sell fast. I then assume another 10% below retail, but you're still going to have around 10, 11, 12% of cash coming to you. If you're having to sell, most likely you're having to sell because you need some cash out of it. I'm just taking human nature assumptions is what I'm doing.
A lot of good points there. Hyder does have a guess. He says has to be Ace Ventura, the shirt. So I'm not sure. I like I said,
It's
I was listening audio, so I didn't see the shirt.
Yeah, it's not that one, but it's kind of in that time frame. This movie came out. I'll give another hint. Man, give me a minute. I will look it up of when this movie came out, and I'll give a rough estimate so that y'all guess.
All right, cool. Well, while we're waiting for you to look that up, maybe if people are here, they can comment their thoughts on whether they prefer trying to maybe make a purchase all cash. Is that what they're looking at right now? Or are they trying to look for the best financing or leverage their other deals to acquire more properties? And I think, as we see just in the one rental at a time community, right? You have successful investors, but they all have their own strategy, right? Like so, like Dion and Lumberjack are very much kind of on the kind of opposite spectrums in a sense of how their portfolio is set up, right? Like,
Yes.
I mean, I think it sounds like the more I listen to Lumberjack recently, it sounds like not that he's pivoting, but maybe he is looking to have certain properties paid off in a sense, or
And and I've heard several of those too. And I'm thinking when I'm retired, there is a principle of having maybe a few, and I think I've heard that even from Chad Carson, that and I think even Michael has a few that are paid off. I think Dion, if I remember right, has one. I see that as a safety principle too, of having, when I'm in retirement or getting close to retirement, maybe one, two, that just extra protection if things that would be cataclysmic type things happen, that maybe having one or two free and clear has an advantage. I'm looking at keeping mine as I get close to retirement. And this is why I'm tracking it very closely on my personal financial statement, starting at that 70% starts at a lower amount, because I want to be where when I'm retired that I'm very close, if not there, at 50% loan to value. And I'm heading that way. Currently, while I'm dialing this, because I watch it, what you focus on, that principle, what you focus on expands. So I'm at 60.3, and every property I'm looking at that, how does that affect me? And I'm trying to keep where my average portfolio gets close to or right at 50, ideally here within the next 5 years. So I'm staying on that, but also starting at that 30% equity, like on this last one that I show on the board from the video. I'm starting at a little bit higher cash flow too. I know that my ultimate goal is to be at 20 doors when I retire. And I'm looking at, can I get to an average profit per door of $800? Well, every purchase right now, if I were leveraged higher, I'm maybe starting at, not talking about cash on cash return, I'm just talking about cash flow. I'm saying I'm maybe starting out at $200, $250. Well, over 10 years, I could see it getting to the 800. How do I do it faster? For me, I'm putting a little bit more down than I have the last couple of them, to where my average cash flow is between, well, this last one was $421. Well, if I'm starting there, and with the natural growth of rents over time, I could see I could be closer to that 800 here in the next 5 years or so. So then I've kind of truncated that time down because I'm starting at a higher spot.
Interesting point. So like when you say, maybe 60% loan to value or 50% loan to value, would you say you kind of diversify where some might be at 80, some are at 20, or are you looking to get all of them at 50? Like, are you trying to keep certain ones at a higher leverage?
I am at this moment, that is what I'm thinking, is most all of them are close to the 50%. If I look at all my portfolio now, and I've got 7 active properties right now, most of them are sub 70%. I don't think I have anything. I have one. Nope, I do have one that is above 70%, but just a little bit above 70%. Most of them are below 70% loan to value. But that's also growing your wealth. Cash flow is paying the bills. And a lot of times with that cash flow, we're buying consumables. There's nothing left. The real wealth is built by the equity inside of those properties. Cash flow is good, and I'm not saying it's not, but usually it's used for utilities, vacations, food. Maybe it's your housing where you live. Those are things that kind of have a consumable type of feature. Wealth is built by the equity in the properties. That's something they can't take away from me, and it doesn't disappear every month, or at least a portion of the cash, in a sense, disappears every month.
Good point. Hyder says, let's see, he says, I want leverage, need leverage at that stage. So going back to our point, I think a lot of it depends on where you're at in your journey, what makes the most sense for you. And I think a big part of it too is also your risk tolerance, right? Like we're talking about. Of course, having leverage is risky in its own way, and at the same time, sometimes having paid off properties can also provide certain risk, right? So it kind of just depends what your tolerance level is, and what type of risk you're looking at maybe taking. Hyder also comments, having a paid off property in a leveraged portfolio is a form of diversity. So all great points. And I think, like for Hyder, he's in an expensive market in San Diego. So for him, if he was to try to buy something all cash, it would probably take, quite a bit of time to come up with that much capital. So it also, I think it depends on where you're looking at investing or what market you're in. But I think that is one important part of using leverage or debt in a sense.
And I would agree. If you're doing all cash, if we think back to that, if I had that blessing to be able to do that, it also slows your growth. So you can't grow with diversification of properties as fast. If you're having to save up and pay all cash, assuming that you're growing typically a lot slower. If you're using leverage, you're being able to grow faster because you're using your dollars and acquiring more property quicker using other people's money.
Talking about markets too, like Hyder being in San Diego, and I know you're in Texas, so I know you've always kind of been kind of in that sweet spot, right? For the past maybe 5 to 10 years, where values are fairly, appreciating well, cash flow is fine, you're not super crazy expensive. But do you think there's ever a point where you're going to look at it where it makes sense to invest in a different market because Texas is getting too expensive?
Never say never. I think for right now and what I can see with the growth of Texas, and I watch that all yearly. They expect Texas is around 31 million in people. They expect here in the next decade or two, I can't remember the report that I read, that it will surpass California in the next decade or two. That they expect Texas to be well over 45 million. And then I think it was 45 million in the next 2 decades. So with that growth, if that continues that trend, Texas is still going to be a good um, place to invest. The Dallas Fort Worth area, on average, every year for the last, I think it was the last 5 years, I know for certain, we're growing at about 140,000 new people every year. That helps. So then you have less vacancy, you have lots of new money coming, and they've got to find a place to stay, and you have great businesses. You've got all these Fortune 500s and all these big businesses moving to Texas and to the North Texas area. It's become a more diverse economy, not just an oil economy. It's a very diverse with technology, finance, and energy. It's a pretty diverse economy.
We got some funny people stopping by. Just make sure you hit the like and subscribe button while you're here. But thanks for stopping by. But yeah, I think a lot of it, it's all comfort level, right? Every market has its pros and cons. I
You're
think
right.
that's the one thing. So it really comes down to some people just investing remotely or out of state is too challenging for them, and every market somebody's making it work. So I think that's the biggest thing.
And there's so
But
many paths. I mean, I'm just saying where I see the what I think is healthy for me. It's not everybody has a different path, and I've learned so much from all the different methodologies of what each does. There's yeah, there's hundreds of different ways.
so if you had to make a final choice, I guess, all cash or debt?
Oh, absolutely debt. Absolutely. But my median is about 70% uh, financing and 30% equity is the start. And I even thought about that more than a decade ago because I came from commercial banking and I watched loan after loan after loan I did, and I watched who made it and who didn't. And has seen the trend of people that had 30% equity or better made it through the tough times, made it through 2008. I've watched some of these things coming from a finance background. And I feel like one of my things that I'm pretty good at, there's many people, when I look at numbers, let's just say it that way, as there's many people that can compile numbers. There's very few that know how to interpret it right. And that's something that I feel like has been a natural thing that I've been good at because I was the one meeting with business after business after business. I would look at all their financials and I would sit down, interpret it with them and say, hey, you need to make these adjustments. I realize even more now that is my natural gift. I can look at numbers and tell you what they mean and what you need to do to adjust to stay a healthy company. I'm trying to do the same thing on the real estate side. I'm taking it, I'm compiling the numbers, and I'm saying, for me, let's just say for me, this is where the optimum starting spot is with the cash flow that I expect to receive and being able to weather the storm. If storms were to happen, I can weather the storms and not lose things.
Yeah, like you said, I think it really comes down to there's so much strategies out there. You just got to get around people that are doing it and kind of pick people's brains. I did post something on Instagram the other day. I forgot who wrote it. I mean, I copied someone's post, but basically it was kind of saying, you take risk to build wealth. If you're not going to take any risk, you're not going to make any money. But at the same time, you have to learn how to be defensive to keep your money. So I
I
think,
call that like you take managed risks. And I think there's even a spectrum or a scale on that of people's risk tolerance, what that managed risk is. I'm just choosing to do it in a way that I don't get burned. I can play with fire, but I got to be careful.
all right, hold on. Sorry. There was a maturity, please. Yes, that's what Hyder's recommending in the chat. So we can have fun here, but let's try to be mature about it. That's difficult for me to say, but yes, let's try to be a little mature here. But I did see something we can maybe slightly pivot. Just Hyder did mention something about him going to Vegas for the ORAD event with his 16-year-old son, and I forget how are you bringing your kids with you, Brandon? Or
No, they're still in school, so I'm just bringing my wife and a couple that have bought their first duplex. They're coming with us.
okay, and then
Maybe
it,
next year. I heard that that Michael brought up. That could be next year that I expose uh, one of my kids or a couple of them to it. We'll just see. I thought that was a great idea.
yeah, Hyder says also having multiple exit plans is key. And so on that topic, though, I'm going to post something that I did see real quickly, and it says, "Money is a language. If you don't teach your kids how to speak it, they'll always struggle to understand it." So I think that's a great point. And is that kind of what you're doing, like with the business and everything, also?
Yes, I think teaching your children has multiple facets to it, and teaching them financial literacy is probably one of the very most skills they need to learn because they're going to need it for the rest of their lives. And I would say numbers and money have similar meanings, but numbers are the language of life, which is the same thing with talking about money. It's numbers and learning how to interpret, how to handle the money. So I know I bring my son. I've brought him a couple of times on bank conversations when I'm sitting down talking about an investment or working on a loan. I have brought him twice, and I've got some more conversations coming up. I think I'm going to bring him and one of the other kids, and so that they get to hear these conversations with these bankers, whether it's necessarily perfectly relevant to them there at that point. They will glean information of learning what good financial talk is.
I'm not sure if he's going to finish his comment. Oh, he just says best financial advice equals, but I don't see the rest of it. So yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, definitely, I think that's something that it's kind of. I'm not sure. Was there a certain age maybe you started talking to your kids a little bit about money and whatnot, and trying to get them to think maybe slightly different?
I'm trying to think back. I think where we really started talking about it was when they were age 10. That's about where we started. And now my youngest right now is 13. My oldest is 18 in the house. And so we talk quite a bit on financials. We've always had a couple small businesses. So our kids have also heard business conversations. So they have heard not only financial, but business conversations that I hopefully will be meaningful to them. And I've heard them say a couple of things that you can tell they've been listening for years because my wife and I both are in the business.
All right. And he finished his comment about best financial advice. So he actually said, I think it's Matausi. Hopefully I'm saying it correct, but he says, best financial advice is take it easy. And if it's easy, take it all. Yeah. I'm gonna agree with that a little bit, right? I mean, as long as, we're being correct about it and but yeah, go for it and make the money. I mean, I think that's the one thing I see a struggle with a little bit, right? Sometimes is people have this feeling or belief that money is evil, or you're not supposed to be wanting to make more money and things like that. So I think sometimes people get caught up in the idea that something's wrong with wanting more, and that's what I'm seeing a lot out there right now, especially with a lot of the divide in the country and whatnot. But there's those that are look at money one way, and there's those that are looking at trying to make more money to better themselves, and I think that's where we're kind of at right now. But yeah, I did buy I think you may have, I know you have the cash flow board game.
Yeah.
I did buy the kids version. I have not had a chance to play with my son.
It's a good one for the middle school or junior high age. I've played it with my son who's 13, and I thought it was probably definitely the best for. I could see him starting earlier. I think it's at age 10, 11 would probably be a good spot once they're in fifth grade, because there's a lot of that fifth grade type math from 10 to about 15, 16. That's probably the right game. After that, the regular cash flow game would probably translate more practical. Once they hit 17 and on, I think that's the best game.
Yeah. So back to my post that I put. Hyder says, "Great post. That's my motivation to continue learning and growing. I'm too comfortable being poor. The wealth is for them. Responsible. The wealth is for them. Responsibly. Yeah. My kids have seen me poor and now see me building wealth. I see the knowledge growing in them, and that's my wealth." Yeah, very good. I think a lot of times before I had kids or before I had my son, you kind of just see the world a little bit differently, and you kind of just going through the motions in a sense, and you're just worried about yourself and not thinking about other things. But now I'm looking at it as, what am I going to not necessarily leave for him, but what am I going to prepare him for? And I think that's kind of why a lot of us are doing what we're doing. But yeah, I mean, do you want to stay on this topic a little bit more, or what?
I
What do
would
you want to?
just add a little bit to that, and this comes from my background and my faith. I believe we need to show that we are good stewards of our money. And I love the principle of that I'm going to answer to my family and to my kids if I'm a good steward, and for me to the Lord above. He's given me the ability and the desire to understand it. And so I've got to take it and handle it well, but then I want to be a good steward of it so that I teach my kids financially, so that down the road, if they get it, if they inherit this, which is the plan, they've been taught to be good stewards of the money and to hold it accountable. Because how you treat money determines whether it's going to stay with you. If you treat your money poorly, it's going to leave you. But if you treat your money well, it's going to stay with you and bring friends.
Very, very true. And then Lauren says, "Yep, I agree. Sounds like Hyder is setting his kids up for success."
I see
Yeah,
that too.
yeah. I think that's the one, one thing I notice about kind of the one rental at a time community. It's a little bit not, I don't know if different is the right word, but a lot of people are looking at it from a family kind of oriented, um, laying the ground or foundation for their kids, and teaching them and getting them involved at a young age. So I think that's super cool to see.
I think my hope is on their first property, if they will do the house hack, I think that will put them on the right path. And I'm going to encourage them, and I already have talked to them about this, but as they get closer and closer in that time frame, really encourage them. I think if they could do that in their early 20s, as early as possible, house hack, get on the property ladder earlier than I did, get their first, say, let's just say it's a duplex where they're living in one side and renting out the other. I think from the history of what they've watched us do, I think they're going to head down that path more likely. That's my hope, is when they get into their 20s and that they do that house hack principle.
Very true. House hacking is very much a cheat code to wealth, as they say, right? So it's a, I mean, it's the young. I guess the earlier you can start, it definitely helps the trajectory of your wealth. I think a lot of times the hardest part I see people wanting to start is just, either they have their child, a young child, or their spouse is not on board. So I really feel, and I think Dion has a video on it. If you can figure out a way to get started right, right out of high school, figure out a way to house hack, early, before you start, bringing these other challenges in life. It does make it slightly a lot easier. And I think, like Curtis is not right out of high school, PE turned RE, but he house hacking, no shower in in the first house hack. He'd shower at the gym, he'd shower at the mom's place, but he didn't have these other things in his life which made it as challenging, like having a child and whatnot. So the earlier you can start, the definitely a lot easier. And yeah, Matu, she does. So an Asian mom, it says, and it says, mom said, got to sleep. You can't spend money when you're asleep. So I guess I would I would flip that a little bit. I mean, that's a great point, but I also think the busier you are, or the busier you make yourself, in a sense, it's also spending less money, right? I noticed that I spend a lot less money because I'm trying to work on all these different things, on trying to build wealth. So it's funny, right? You're trying to build wealth, but you're staying so busy trying to improve on these other factors that you're actually spending less money from that standpoint. So I think that's an interesting thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I guess where it helps my spending habits is I'm spending money, but it's on investments. So I have to go to Lowe's and to the tile store and a floor and decor and different things. I get some of that endorphins of spending money, but it's spending money on the right things, which are investments that I'm working on. So I'm channeling that desire to spend money into the right spots.
Well, it looks like Hyder has spent some money also. He says he finally installed a urinal in my tiny house. It's the little things in life. Yeah. Well, Hyder's doing some awesome stuff. Hopefully, there was the accountability call for the school community this morning, and hopefully, Hyder is finally maybe moved on from fighting his ticket. But I was listening in here and there, so I didn't catch all of it. But hopefully, Hyder can fill us in more on that later. But here's another one. Here's another one. That, let's see, where is it? I got this one also. So from Chris Williamson, he posted this on X. He said, "If more money wouldn't change how you spend your time, you're already rich." What's your thoughts on that?
Hmm. I don't know. That's interesting. I agree. Wealth is kind of a relative thought, and being rich has many layers. That's kind of, that's my initial impression.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, but I think maybe it's you know how like sometimes people talk about who you're surrounding yourself with, right? So a lot of times maybe we get caught or complacent in a sense because, and I hate to always say this, but I see it, and I can't really speak on other areas, but I see it quite a bit in Hawaii, right? Yeah, a lot of times people don't leave the islands or they stay here, and even like I'm proof of it. I mean, I'm pretty much in the community that I was raised in, right? I'm in that same neighborhood in a sense. I work right by the high school that I used to go to. So you're kind of in this same people that you spent your whole life with, right? So a lot of times you're just like, oh yeah, I'm doing fine, right? I'm I have a house, the person I went to high school with has a home, or what. So you're kind of like judging yourself, or just kind of looking at other people that you've been around, so you kind of get complacent in a sense, and a lot of times you don't really think that you know you can be happier or you can want more things. But then now being in like this one rental at a time, or even the school community, talking to folks like you, I see like other things that are out there, or other ways, or that money can bring happiness, or whatnot. So not saying like you're trying to make all the money in the world, but there's a lot of other things out there that maybe I haven't done yet that can bring different type of enjoyment or happiness.
Well, I think though, even those conferences, not just the information you gather, but I agree with you. It's the networking all around. So, it's knowing, introducing yourself to all these different people and their different experiences. I have, obviously there's something funny, but I've lived in multiple states. Um,
Okay, okay, so real quick, we have to screen save this, or save this, but this might be a hack that we all need to learn. But it says, Matsuushi says, write down your hourly wage on your wife's debit credit card. When she spends, she knows how much time it costs you.
that's pretty good.
It,
That's pretty good.
I like that.
But
Yeah.
actually, in truth, my wife is way more frugal than I am.
Well, she won't let you buy any more Aloha shirts, probably. What are those like?
Oh
What?
man. Yeah.
Oh, did you? I sorry, I wasn't. I may not have heard you, but did you figure out what timeline
So
that
I will
movie?
give a little it's this movie came out between 2001 and 2005.
2000. Okay, I think I know because I mean, like I said, I only listened to it, so I didn't see it, but I have a feeling you talked about it before, or maybe we talked about it offline, so I'm not sure.
Maybe.
But Matsuushi, you better subscribe because I need you popping in more often, because
Yeah,
you're
no,
also
these are great
you
comments.
are keeping it entertaining. So yes, he writes it on all of his three wives cards. So yes.
Wow. But I take that principle to another level. If you say, I want to make, let's just give a couple examples. For us, on focusing on what our earnings are, if I want to make $100,000, I need to be focusing on productivity and doing work that's worth $50 an hour. If I want to make $200,000, I better focus on what's the type of work that makes $100 an hour. And I'm saying the average work, we just using 2000 as the average yearly work. I know it's more than that a lot of times, but that's a simple way to look at it. If I want to make $300,000, I've got to focus on work that produces $150 an hour, so on and so forth. So when I'm looking at work, my wife makes fun of me. I do delegate things in our business, but I'm looking at what type of work is this? Is this $25 an hour work? Is this $50 an hour work? Is this 100, 150? I stay focused on higher dollar an hour work. And I do delegate. I hire out the stuff that's lower dollar an hour work. I only focus on higher dollar type productivity.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing, especially when I was a lot younger, you don't really break it down that way, right? Either you're looking at it from just like how much my yearly salary is, or how much the total income I'm making. But then when you, like Matus, when you break things down about how much it costs, like per hour, or per the amount of time that you have to spend in it, I think that's super helpful, and you really start realizing where your money's going, or how much um, it actually costs you to do something, right? Like you're saying, my time is worth this much. If I have this job that I know that I can do, but I'm not going to really, it's not worth my time in a sense. I'm going to find someone else that can do it, maybe at a lower cost, because my time is better spent somewhere else. And I think that's
I'll give an example.
yeah.
One on this specific property. So I've mentioned this before. Somebody asked me, why do I hire a contractor to build the house? I hire the contractor because I can make more than the contractor focusing on the big picture and finding my next acquisitions. Specific example. So I've backed into, now I've worked with him for several projects. He's making around $50 an hour building my house. He's spending somewhere close to 300 hours on that project that's taken 5 months. He's got about 300 hours in it. He's making about $50 an hour, about 15 grand. I'm spending maybe 40, at most 40 hours on that project because I have him working with all the contractors, with the city, doing all the inspections, making sure it's done right or fixed based off the inspection. He's spending those hours. He's making 15,000, and with the equity and the profit from it, I'm making over 60. I'm making 60,000 on 40 hours. He's making 15,000 on 300 hours. And so when people ask me, why aren't you the general contractor? I believe, for me, it would be a misuse of time. I'm holding my time accountable, just like I hold my money accountable to optimize my returns. I'm doing both at the same time. I'm able to focus on the acquisitions. If I was in focusing on all the things, the trees all around me, and staying deep in the weeds, I don't have time to see the 30,000-foot view of where to look for my next acquisitions. So I do hold my money and my time accountable. What are the right things I need to focus on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, even having like like Hyder says, right? He says, reverse engineer what you need to do to accomplish that goal, right? So he wants 25K a month, so he needs roughly 30 properties to make that happen, as an example. So I think, that's the one thing is once you have that number or kind of goal in mind, and you can kind of reverse engineer, how you're going to get there,
That's
and
absolutely the right way to do it.
yeah. I noticed you're putting on a lot of video. I mean, are you having fun with the YouTube channel? Is that kind of like you're saying, right? So we also look at it from how much maybe hourly you can make, or what your time's worth. YouTube definitely, or making the videos, probably, I mean, I don't know, maybe you're getting clients from it, but like for myself right now, the YouTube side is, you're not really making anything from it in a sense, right? So
Well, yeah, I agree. Not directly. I'll just tell some specifics. I'm choosing to do once a week right now. And then something like this adds an extra one. But I'm able to do that because I've got a business and a property management company. I focus on the sales there. And what I'm making on that is my primary focus, growing that business. But I've picked up a couple of clients that have watched some videos. The one that I just picked up was from this group and YouTube, the binder method. I picked up an account describing what we were going to do on this property that this buyer was purchasing. It was 27 doors. It's revenue of, it's going to be end up revenue of about 25,000 in rent collections a month plus as we grow out the rental revenue, because they're starting out at a low dollar amount and they're not at market. We're going to use the binder method. So I picked up that 27 door account because of the videos that we're all doing, because that came from Dion. I picked up some others that have seen some of my videos. So I've been able to grow my business on a somewhat of a passive way. I'm taking the things that I'm learning from our ORAT community, and I'm using it even with investors. And then the Section 8, I'm getting into that just a little bit, starting to learn that. It's all from this group. So there's been value of me doing these videos, picking up a client, and then also learning from these videos. I'm applying it to our business today.
Yeah, so I also think it's like how you're saying what kind of value, you're trying to get, right? So I, there's a lot of people that reach out to me that want to start investing in Pittsburgh or investing remotely. For me, it's like I'm not trying to really get a commission or make money from them, but I'm hoping that by me either sending them to a certain individual or getting them started will kind of just overall like give us better service in a sense, right? So like, if there's someone that reaches out to me and I say, hey, go connect with so and so in Pittsburgh that I use and I that kind of works with us. Now, hopefully that agent or contractor in Pittsburgh is like, oh, so and so is sending me referrals, and I'm just going to treat their group in a sense better, and as far. So, me personally, I'm not like, hey, I need to get a commission. I'm trying to make money, but I'm just hoping that because we're getting like a bigger group overall, we're going to get better service or better treatment in a sense.
Right. And that wasn't my intention to. I don't think mine will ever become monetized. These are just things that just happen naturally that I didn't even think would happen. It's just been a benefit that I think getting your own YouTube channel um, does more than I ever thought. There's ripple effects of helping communication skills, networking with others. There's just so many things, the benefits that I've picked up from it that I never thought were there. But I'm doing it strictly to share my knowledge and to get better. Because if I'm working on sharing that out there, I'm getting better at communicating it and studying it. It's just very valuable. I'm getting benefit that was never my intent.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone hasn't, Brandon's channel is in the chat, and so is All Nighter Hider. It sounds like people said maybe on your mobile device, you may not be able to click on the links, but on your desktop, if you are there and listening on your desktop, you can click on the links and go subscribe to them. But yeah, definitely, yeah, I think having the YouTube channel and just putting yourself out there, definitely, like you said, it gets you, you know, helps you be able to communicate better. And definitely it makes me, I think, honestly, it probably helps me. It's in a weird way. I think it's helping my parenting skills. And it also just it helps me see so many different point of views and different people's opinions and different lifestyles in a sense. So a lot of times if I'm talking to my son about certain things, it definitely makes me kind of factor in other people's scenarios or situations before I kind of maybe help him in a situation or answer him. And so honestly, like kind of what I'm struggling with now, and maybe I don't know if anyone out there has thoughts on it, but so a lot of I like to maybe make trouble or make fun of people in a fun, playful way and have fun with it. So my son, he's at that age where kids tease each other and things like that. So he struggles with kids making fun of him about whatever they make fun of certain things or whatever, and I'm trying to like, do I have to back off on me making trouble or making fun of other people? Is he seeing that? I don't. Yeah, so I'm trying to think about like the best way to go about it, because I'm like, am I setting a bad example by always, causing trouble and making fun of people? So yeah, but
Well, I think this group, I use the principle of iron sharpens iron. Doing YouTube is sharpening me. Having these discussions with you, with Michael, even in our ORAT community, it's sharpening each other. We're sharpening each other, and we're getting better at our craft of real estate investing with each other. So it's been very valuable as iron sharpens iron.
yeah. So if you guys see me making less comments or making less trouble, then you know why. But I'm like, man, do I have to stop teasing people? But yeah.
I think the funniest comment I got was from my son was watching one of my videos, and he just made a little comment. Yeah, that's good. It was just so funny, just his little comment. He was trying to help me, and I appreciated that desire to put a comment in there. But I give him, I said something to him just recently about it. I said, "Man, Hudson, thank you for that comment." It wasn't much of a comment, but it was out of just watching his desire to see me succeed doing a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I mean, I have fun with it. I know definitely everyone's, starting their social media or YouTube's channel for different reasons, but I think I just enjoy it. I have fun connecting with different people, and like you, Hyder, all these different individuals. So yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. It's fun doing these lives. I definitely have a lot more fun doing the lives than anything else. Um, but yeah, I mean, if there's anything else, I was hoping Kevin, the self storage guy, was going to be on. He is dealing with some illness. I guess there's a flu or something going around in his family, so he wasn't sure if he was going to make it. But hopefully next time he can come on, because he did have a tweet that I really want to dig into. So just maybe for some thought out there. So he said 30% of new rentals in self storage are people moving. National supply of homes is 5 million homes short. 65% of owners have sub 4% mortgages. Regulations all-time high. Cost to build all-time high. Insurance premiums all-time high. And this is a big negative for storage. So yeah, I kind of want to dig into that, but hopefully next time we can touch on that. ORAD event about 1 week away. I know you're going to be there with all your Allure shirts, so I'm kind of stressing out as how is the Texas guy going to have nicer Allure shirts than
You
me.
better bring yours. No, it's going to be so much fun. All of us getting together face to face, having more time just to sit down and visit, networking. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm kind of on the fence. I know I make so much trouble to Frank. I think Frank's going to try and kick my ass or something. I'm not quite sure. I think he's going to hunt me down. Oh, you know what I was gonna say? When are you arriving? When are you coming into
I
Vegas?
come in on just Friday morning, mid Friday late morning. I guess that's
Friday?
14th.
What? You're not gonna be there for all the Denny's shenanigans?
No. I'm staying till Tuesday. I know several people are coming a couple of days early. I've got businesses to run. and I've got a lot of accounting that I need to get finished up. I just finished up 1099s on Friday, and so I'm behind on some things financially for our businesses. So I'm busted. I mean, literally after this video, I got to get to work. Got to get the accounting done. I've got a whole list of to-dos for today for financials, and then for some loans that I'm working on. They're asking me for stuff.
All right, so Esther's here. So Esther, thanks for stopping by. She says she likes both of our YouTube channels. I'm sure for different reasons, more educational on Brandon's side, more for laughs on my side. But thanks for always tuning in. And so yeah, Esther says I should wear a lower shirt matching Brandon's. So I don't know. I forget, Brad. I think I did mention this to you last year. Me and Zuber had like a challenge because he always wears these colorful shirts, and I think I had a kind of a bright Aloha shirt on too. So we kind of had a little social media whose shirt was. I don't know if not. I don't think nicer was the right way. I think I put more bright or whatnot, and luckily I won, but
Have
I
you
mean,
watched the intro video to the ORAD event when he's running up the aisle? I'm about second row in there with an Aloha shirt on, right
ah,
behind him.
well, you know what? I'm gonna wear a cowboy hat then. I'm gonna wear a cowboy hat and boots,
There you
and
go.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna do though for it. But yes, Hyder. I'm kind of watching out for Frank. So hopefully Cynthia can protect me because I'm her favorite. So hey, Kyle's here, blue collar landlord. So I've been trying to get him on, but he's busy working. So I know the weekends are best for him, so maybe we can get something scheduled and set up and get Kyle back on. But oh, actually, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, Kyle, if you are here, are you at the Coach Carson event? I forgot. I know the Coach Carson event's going on in Charlotte right now. So I know like Aaron Amin is there, and I'm not sure if Coach is going to be at Zuber's event this year.
I hadn't seen
Um,
anything mentioned about him, so I don't think I'm not certain.
All right. Well, this is always fun. Yeah, I mean, I would wear a lower shirts, but I kind of just what I do is I'm wearing the same. I always have this jacket on, so I don't have to worry and figure out what I'm gonna wear. I just throw it on, so I don't have to think about it. If I have a recording or live, I just throw it on, and it's simple and fast and easy. I don't have to think about it. But yeah, we'll get you back on. It's always fun. Go check out Brandon's video. I'll post it one last time about buying all cash or leverage and see what your thoughts are. And he, like I said, he does have a question in there
Yes.
about his Aloha shirt. And if you know what movie it's from, put it in his comments. And I'm going to throw it out there. Don't tell me if I'm right on camera.
Okay.
You can tell me off camera right after this, but I'm going to say Saving Sarah Marshall. So don't answer me. Just you can tell me offline. But everyone,
All right.
thanks for stopping by, and we'll do this again. And I'll see you in